Captain Sarah Chen stood before the massive view screen of the USS Blackstar, watching the swirling blues and greens of hyperspace rush past like angry spirits. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman in her early 40s, with steel-grey eyes and scars that told stories of a dozen campaigns. Behind her, the bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. 200 of humanity's finest warriors moved through their duties with the precision of a Swiss watch. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, her tactical officer. "We're receiving long-range sensor data from the advanced scouts. The Zephyrian fleet is exactly where intelligence said it would be." Chen turned from the view screen, her black uniform crisp despite the 3 weeks they'd been traveling through hyperspace. The Blackstar was humanity's newest and deadliest warship, a kilometer-long spear of death that represented everything humans had learned about warfare in their short but bloody expansion into the galaxy. Unlike other species who had spent millennia developing beautiful artistic vessels, humans had focused on one thing: killing efficiently. "How many ships?" Chen asked, moving to the tactical display where a holographic representation of the Kepler 442 system materialized above the central console. "Preliminary count shows 47 capital ships, Captain," Webb replied, his fingers dancing across his console, "including 3 dreadnoughts and what appears to be a command carrier." Chen nodded slowly. The Zephyrians were notorious for their massive fleets and overwhelming numbers. They had never encountered an enemy they couldn't simply crush through sheer force. Most species surrendered when they saw a Zephyrian fleet on their sensors. Humans were not most species. "Any sign they detected our scout ships?" Chen asked. "Negative, Captain. Lieutenant Rodriguez's stealth modifications are holding. They have no idea we're here." Chief Engineer Rodriguez had spent months perfecting the Blackstar's stealth capabilities. Where other species saw space warfare as a grand, honorable affair with ships announcing themselves and engaging in formal combat, humans approached it like predators. They struck from the shadows, hit hard, and left nothing alive to tell tales. "Commander Singh," Chen called to her first officer, a tall man with kind eyes that belied his reputation as one of humanity's most ruthless strategists. "What's the status on our special payload?" Singh consulted his tablet, his expression grave. "All Nova torpedoes are armed and ready, Captain. Engineering reports all systems green across the board." Nova torpedoes were humanity's answer to the Zephyrian question. While other species had developed energy weapons and particle beams, humans had taken a more direct approach. If you wanted to kill something in space, you didn't need fancy energy weapons. You needed to hit it really, really hard with something really, really heavy, traveling really, really fast. Each Nova torpedo contained a tungsten core surrounded by antimatter charges and guided by an AI that was specifically programmed to hate whatever it was aimed at. The Zephyrians had energy shields that could deflect most conventional weapons. They had never encountered weapons that simply punched through their shields like they weren't there. "Captain," interrupted Ensign Park from the communication station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." "Put it through to my ready room," Chen said. "Commander Singh, you have the bridge." Chen's ready room was spartanly decorated. A desk, a chair, a small bookshelf containing actual paper books, and a single photograph of Earth taken from orbit. No art, no decorations, nothing that might distract from the business of war. The holographic figure of Admiral Harrison materialized above her desk. Harrison was an old-school commander who had fought in the border wars against the Catherian Confederacy. His face was lined with age and stress, but his eyes still held the fire that had made him humanity's premier military strategist. "Sarah," Harrison said without preamble, "I need to know you understand what you're about to do." "I understand the mission, Admiral," Chen replied. "Eliminate the Zephyrian fleet in the Kepler system. No survivors." "It's more than that," Harrison said, leaning forward. "The entire galaxy is watching this engagement. Every species, every government, every trade federation. They want to see if humanity is as dangerous as the rumors claim." Chen remained silent, knowing the Admiral wasn't finished. "The Zephyrians have been expanding for 3,000 years, Harrison continued. They've conquered 43 species, enslaved entire star systems, and turned the Outer Rim into their personal empire. Every government in the galaxy has tried to stop them. Every government has failed. And now they're in our space," Chen said. "Now they're in our space," Harrison agreed. "They destroyed the research station at Kepler. 442b. 300 scientists, including Dr. Iasser, Martinez's xenobiology team. They declared human space to be part of their empire and demanded our immediate surrender." Chen's jaw tightened. "Doctor." Martinez had been working on breakthrough medical research that could have saved millions of lives across the galaxy. The Zephyrians had vaporized the station without even attempting communication. The other species are betting we'll do what everyone else has done, Harrison said. Fight bravely, inflict some casualties, and then retreat when the losses become too great. They're expecting us to be civilized. They don't know humans very well, do they, Admiral? Chen asked with a thin smile. No, they don't. Which brings me to why I'm calling you directly. Harrison's expression became even more serious. Sarah, when you engage that fleet, the entire galaxy needs to understand that humanity is not to be trifled with. They need to know that attacking human civilians comes with a price that no government, no matter how powerful, can afford to pay. Chen understood. This wasn't just about defending human space. This was about sending a message that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Humans were no longer the new species on the block, struggling to find their place among the stars. They were apex predators, and it was time the galaxy learned what that meant. I understand, Admiral. When we're finished with the Zephyrian fleet, there will be nothing left but debris and radiation.
Good hunting, Captain, Harrison said, and the transmission ended.
Chen sat alone for a moment, staring at the photograph of Earth. She thought about her daughter Emma, who was studying xenobiology at the Mars University. She thought about her parents, who had died in the Cytherian attacks that had sparked humanity's first interstellar war. She thought about the 300 researchers who had died at Kepler 442b simply because they were human. The Zephyrians had made a critical error. They had assumed that humans would fight like other species, with honor, with restraint, with concern for civilian casualties. They had no idea that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of killing other humans, and they had brought those skills with them to the stars. When Chen returned to the bridge, she found her crew waiting with the quiet anticipation of professional killers preparing for work. Status report, she ordered. We drop out of hyperspace in 30 minutes, Webb reported. All weapon systems are online and ready. Stealth field is holding at maximum efficiency. Communications are dark and will remain so until you give the order. Added Ensign Park. Engineering reports all systems optimal, said Singh. The crew is ready, Captain. Chen moved to her command chair, a throne-like seat that put her at the center of the Blackstar's nervous system. Around her, displays showed the ship's status in real time. Every system was green. Every weapon was loaded. Every human on board knew exactly what they were here to do. Helm, take us out of hyperspace at the designated coordinates, Chen ordered. Tactical. The moment we drop out, I want a full sensor sweep of the system. Aye, Captain, came the chorus of responses. The Blackstar shuddered almost imperceptibly as it dropped out of hyperspace. The swirling chaos of higher dimensions gave way to the star-filled blackness of normal space. In the distance, the yellow star designated Kepler 442 blazed with steady light. Around it, Chen knew, orbited 7 planets, including the world where Dr. Martinez and his team had died. Sensor sweep complete, Webb announced. I'm reading 47 Zephyrian vessels in a standard fleet formation around the 4th planet. 3 dreadnoughts, 1 command carrier, 12 heavy cruisers, and 31 destroyers. On the main screen, the tactical display showed the Zephyrian fleet as red icons scattered across the star system. They were positioned in a defensive formation around Kepler 442, the planet they had claimed as a forward operating base. Their ships were beautiful in an alien way, organic curves and flowing lines that spoke of a species that valued artistry even in their instruments of war. Any sign they've detected us? Chen asked.
Negative, Captain.
We're holding position at the edge of the system. Our stealth field is masking our heat signature and electromagnetic emissions. Chen studied the tactical display. The Zephyrians were confident, almost arrogant, in their positioning. They had placed their ships in a formation that would have been effective against any conventional fleet, but they had made one critical mistake. They had assumed their enemy would attack conventionally. Helm, plot an intercept course that will bring us within Nova torpedo range of their command carrier, Chen ordered. Tactical, I want firing solutions for every ship in that fleet. Plotting course now, reported Lieutenant Kim from the helm. ETA to optimal firing position 40 to 3 minutes. Firing solutions computed and locked, Webb confirmed. All tubes loaded and ready. Chen activated the shipwide communication system. Throughout the Blackstar, 200 of humanity's finest warriors stopped what they were doing to listen to their captain's words. Crew of the Blackstar, Chen began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. In 40 minutes we will engage the Zephyrian fleet that destroyed the research station at Kepler 442b. These are the same aliens who have enslaved 43 species and declared human space to be their property. She paused, letting her words sink in. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Today, we show them why Earth breeds warriors. When we are finished, there will be no Zephyrian fleet. There will be no survivors to carry tales back to their empire. There will be only silence. Chen closed the communication and settled back in her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing humanity's answer to 3,000 years of Zephyrian expansion. In 40 minutes, the galaxy would learn a new lesson about war. They would learn that humans didn't fight to win territory or resources or glory. Humans fought to kill their enemies so completely that the very memory of opposition was erased from the universe. The USS Blackstar moved through space like a hunting shark, silent and deadly, carrying death itself toward an enemy that had never encountered anything like it. The USS Blackstar drifted through space like a ghost ship, its stealth systems bending light and electromagnetic radiation around its hull. Captain Chen watched the tactical display as her ship closed the distance to the Zephyrian fleet. Each minute brought them closer to weapons range, closer to the moment when the galaxy would discover just how efficiently humans waged war. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Webb whispered, though there was no need for quiet in the vacuum of space. Something about hunting made humans naturally lower their voices. "We're detecting increased activity around the command carrier. It looks like they're launching patrol flights." Chen studied the sensor data flowing across her displays. The Zephyrians were thorough, she had to give them credit for that. Small fighter craft were spreading out from the main fleet in expanding search patterns. It was exactly what any competent commander would do when occupying a star system: maintain a defensive perimeter and watch for threats. "How many fighters?" Chen asked. "Initial count shows 64 light fighters and 32 heavy interceptors," Webb replied. "Standard Zephyrian patrol formation. They're spreading out to cover the inner system." Commander Singh moved to stand beside Chen's chair, his tablet displaying detailed specifications of Zephyrian fighter craft. "Captain, intelligence reports indicate their fighters are equipped with quantum resonance scanners. If we get too close, they'll detect us despite our stealth field." Chen nodded. This was the challenge of stealth warfare. You could hide from big ships with their massive sensor arrays, but small, fast fighters were harder to fool. They could get close enough to detect the subtle distortions that even the best stealth systems couldn't completely eliminate. "Recommendations?" Chen asked her tactical officer. Webb's fingers danced across his console, running attack simulations in real time. "We could take them out with long-range missile strikes, but that would alert the main fleet to our presence. Alternatively, we could wait for their patrol patterns to create a gap in their coverage." Chen studied the tactical display, watching the red dots of Zephyrian fighters spread across the system like a net. In her mind, she could see the battle developing, not the chaotic melee that most species called warfare, but the precise, calculated elimination that humans had perfected. "Negative on both options," Chen said finally. "We're not going to wait, and we're not going to give them any warning. Tactical, prepare a spread of Whisper missiles. I want those fighters eliminated silently." Whisper missiles were another uniquely human innovation. Where most species built weapons that announced their presence with energy signatures and exhaust plumes, humans had built missiles that killed in perfect silence. Each Whisper missile contained a small antimatter charge surrounded by a stealth field generator. They would reach their targets, detonate, and vaporize the Zephyrian fighters without giving off any electromagnetic signature that might alert the main fleet. Whisper missiles, armed and ready. Webb confirmed. Targeting all 96 fighter craft. Time to impact: 6 minutes, 30 seconds. "Fire," Chen ordered. From the Blackstar's hull, 96 small missiles emerged like deadly seeds scattered on the wind. They were invisible to both the naked eye and most sensor systems, their stealth fields making them appear as nothing more than background radiation. Each missile carried an AI guidance system that had been programmed with one simple directive: find a Zephyrian fighter and kill it. Chen watched the tactical display as her missiles closed on their targets. The Zephyrian fighters continued their patrol patterns, completely unaware that death was approaching at a significant fraction of the speed of light. Their pilots were probably discussing the routine nature of their mission, complaining about the boring duty of patrolling an empty star system. "Impact in 30 seconds, Webb announced quietly. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. The tactical display showed 92 brief flashes of light as the Whisper missiles reached their targets. In the span of 3 seconds, the entire Zephyrian fighter screen simply ceased to exist. No explosions, no debris fields, no distress signals. One moment there were 96 fighter craft patrolling the system. The next moment there was nothing but empty space and rapidly dispersing clouds of ionized gas. "Confirm all targets eliminated," Chen ordered. Webb ran a full sensor sweep of the engagement zone. Confirmed, Captain. No Zephyrian fighters remaining. The stealth strikes were completely successful. On the main view screen, the Zephyrian fleet continued its lazy orbit around Kepler 442d, completely unaware that their entire fighter screen had been eliminated. The massive ships moved through space with the confidence of predators who had never encountered anything that could threaten them. Time to optimal firing position? Chen asked. 18 minutes, Captain, Lieutenant Kim reported from the helm. Chen activated her personal communication system and opened a channel to Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Chief, status report on our primary weapons. Rodriguez's voice came through clearly from the engineering section deep in the Blackstar's hull. All systems green, Captain. The Nova torpedo launchers are loaded and ready. I've also taken the liberty of preparing our special surprise. Chen smiled grimly. Rodriguez was referring to humanity's newest weapon, something so classified that even most of the crew didn't know it existed. The Blackstar carried exactly one Omega torpedo, a weapon that represented the absolute peak of human destructive capability. Understood, Chief. Stand by for my order. Chen closed the communication and turned her attention back to the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was spread out in a formation that would have been effective against any conventional attack. Their dreadnoughts formed the core of their formation, massive ships bristling with energy weapons and protected by shields that could deflect almost any known weapon. Around them, the cruisers and destroyers maintained a protective perimeter. It was a formation perfected over 3,000 years of conquest, tested against dozens of species and refined through countless battles. It had never failed them. Captain, Ensign Park announced from the communications station, we're receiving scattered transmissions from the Zephyrian fleet. Standard fleet communications, routine status reports. No indication they're aware of any threat. Any word about their missing fighters? Singh asked. Negative, sir. It appears they haven't realized their patrol screen is gone. Chen nodded. This was the advantage of the Whisper missiles. They killed so cleanly that it took time for the enemy to realize anything had happened. The Zephyrian command structure would assume their fighters were maintaining radio silence during their patrol sweeps. By the time they realized something was wrong, it would be far too late. Tactical, give me a detailed analysis of their fleet composition, Chen ordered. Webb brought up a detailed breakdown on the main screen. 3 Emperor-class dreadnoughts, designation Alpha, Beta, and Gamma for tactical purposes. The command carrier appears to be the flagship. It's broadcasting command frequencies to the entire fleet. 12 Sovereign-class heavy cruisers forming the middle ring, and 31 Blade-class destroyers on the perimeter. Each ship type appeared on the screen with detailed specifications, shield strength, weapon systems, crew complement. The Zephyrian fleet represented the accumulated military might of a 3,000-year-old empire. Nearly 50,000 alien warriors crewed those ships, veterans of dozens of campaigns against species across the galaxy. Crew numbers? Chen asked. Total fleet complement is approximately 48,500 Zephyrian military personnel, Webb replied after consulting his database. Chen felt no emotion at that number. 48,000 lives that would end in the next few minutes. In the old days, before humanity had learned the true nature of galactic warfare, that might have given her pause. Now it was simply a tactical consideration. How much firepower would be needed to eliminate that many targets efficiently? Captain, Lieutenant Kim called from the helm. We're approaching optimal firing range. Recommend we begin final approach. Chen studied the tactical situation one more time. The Blackstar would emerge from stealth, fire a massive volley of Nova torpedoes, and eliminate as many ships as possible in the first strike. Any survivors would face the full fury of humanity's most advanced warship in close combat. All stations prepare for combat, Chen announced. Tactical. I want firing solutions for every ship in that fleet. Prioritize the dreadnoughts and the command carrier. Aye, Captain. Computing firing solutions now. The bridge of the Blackstar transformed as her crew shifted into combat mode. Displays showed weapon status, shield strength, and damage control readiness. Every human on the bridge moved with the precision of a well-rehearsed orchestra, each playing their part in the symphony of destruction that was about to begin. Firing solutions computed and locked, Webb announced. All Nova torpedo tubes loaded and ready. We have clear shots on all priority targets. Engineering reports all systems optimal, Singh added. Power plant is running at full capacity. Chen rose from her command chair and walked to the front of the bridge, staring at the tactical display that showed the unsuspecting Zephyrian fleet. In a few minutes, Those red dots would begin disappearing one by one as humanity's answer to 3,000 years of Zephyrian expansion reached them. Helm, bring us to attack position. Drop stealth field on my mark. Aye, Captain. Moving to attack position. The Blackstar turned toward its prey, its massive hull aligning with the Zephyrian fleet. Weapon systems that had been designed by human engineers with one purpose in mind came online, their targeting systems locked onto ships whose crews had no idea death was approaching. Captain, Webb said, his voice tight with anticipation, we have perfect firing solutions on all targets. Ready to commence attack on your order. Chen looked around her bridge one final time. Her crew was ready, her ship was ready. 48,000 Zephyrian warriors were about to learn why every other species in the galaxy whispered humanity's name in fearful tones. Drop stealth field, Chen commanded. All weapons commence firing. The USS Blackstar materialized from the void like a demon stepping out of hell. One moment there was empty space at the edge of the Kepler system. The next moment, a kilometer of human engineering and malice hung in the starlight, its weapons already trained on the Zephyrian fleet. The first Nova torpedo left its tube before the Zephyrians even detected the Blackstar's presence. Then another, then dozens more in a carefully orchestrated sequence that would have impressed a symphony conductor. Each torpedo was a work of art in its own right, a tungsten rod surrounded by antimatter charges and guided by an artificial intelligence that existed for exactly one purpose: the complete annihilation of its target. Captain Chen watched the tactical display as 47 Nova torpedoes streaked across the void toward the Zephyrian fleet. The weapons traveled at 30% of light speed, which meant the alien fleet had exactly 14 seconds from detection to impact. Not enough time to raise shields, not enough time to maneuver, barely enough time to realize they were about to die. Captain, Ensign Park's voice carried across the bridge with barely controlled excitement. We're receiving multiple emergency transmissions from the Zephyrian fleet. They've detected our torpedoes inbound. Put it through, Chen ordered. The bridge speakers filled with the panicked voices of Zephyrian commanders suddenly realizing their perfect formation had become a killing field. The universal translator rendered their alien speech into clipped professional English, but couldn't hide the terror underneath. Unknown contacts inbound, all ships evasive maneuvers. Command carrier to all vessels, we are under attack. By the void, what are those things? Chen felt a cold satisfaction as she listened to the enemy's confusion. The Zephyrians had spent 3,000 years perfecting the art of war against species who announced their attacks, who sent ultimatums, who fought with honor and restraint. They had never faced an enemy that simply appeared and started killing. Impact in 5 seconds, Webb announced from Tactical. On the main screen, the tactical display showed the Nova torpedoes closing the final distance to their targets. Chen could imagine the view from the Zephyrian ships, points of light growing larger in their view screens, death approaching at a significant fraction of light speed with mathematical inevitability. 3 seconds, Webb counted down. 2, 1. The first torpedo struck the Zephyrian command carrier amidships, its tungsten core punching through the alien ship's shields like they were made of tissue paper. The antimatter charges detonated a fraction of a second later, turning the forward third of the massive vessel into expanding plasma. Before the debris had time to disperse, 3 more torpedoes struck the dying ship, each impact adding to the destruction, until there was nothing left but an expanding cloud of superheated gas. Across the Zephyrian fleet, similar scenes played out with mechanical precision. The 3 dreadnoughts, massive ships that had led the conquest of dozens of star systems, died within seconds of each other. Their shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, simply couldn't cope with weapons that hit them with the kinetic energy of small asteroids traveling at relativistic speeds. Confirmed hits on all primary targets, Webb reported, his voice professional despite the carnage displayed on the tactical screen. Command carrier destroyed. All 3 dreadnoughts eliminated. 11 heavy cruisers destroyed, 1 heavily damaged. 18 destroyers confirmed destroyed. In less than 30 seconds, the Blackstar had eliminated 2/3 of the Zephyrian fleet. The remaining ships, 1 damaged cruiser, and 13 destroyers, scattered like startled fish, their formation discipline breaking down as individual captains decided that survival was more important than tactics.
Sir, Park announced from communications, the surviving ships are attempting to retreat.
They're powering up their hyperspace drives. 1. Chen had expected this. The Zephyrians were professional soldiers, but they weren't suicidal. Faced with a weapon they couldn't counter and an enemy they couldn't understand, retreat was the logical choice. Unfortunately for them, retreat was not an option Chen intended to offer. Helm, pursue the fleeing ships. Tactical, target the survivors with conventional weaponry. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Captain? Singh looked puzzled. Disabled? Chen turned to her first officer with a smile that would have made a shark nervous. I want survivors, Commander. I want them to carry word back to the Zephyrian Empire about what happens when you attack human civilians. The Blackstar surged forward, its engines pushing the massive ship to velocities that would have been impossible for most species to achieve. Human engineering had always prioritized function over form, and the Blackstar's engines were capable of accelerating the ship at rates that would crush most alien crews. Humans, with their dense bones and efficient cardiovascular systems, could handle far more acceleration than their galactic neighbors. The first Zephyrian destroyer tried to escape toward the outer system, its captain pushing his engines beyond safe parameters in a desperate attempt to reach hyperspace transition distance. The ship's organic curves, so beautiful in normal flight, now seemed to emphasize its desperation as it fled through space like a wounded animal. Target lock achieved, Webb announced, firing plasma cannons. The Blackstar's secondary weapon systems were based on human fusion technology, weapons that created contained suns and hurled them at enemy ships. The plasma bursts crossed the distance to the fleeing destroyer in seconds, striking its engines with surgical precision. The alien ship tumbled end over end, its drive systems venting plasma as emergency systems tried to prevent a complete reactor breach. Target disabled, Webb confirmed. Ship is drifting, life support appears intact. Chen nodded approvingly. The plasma cannons were perfect for this kind of precision work. Unlike the Nova torpedoes, which were designed to completely annihilate their targets, the plasma weapons could disable ships without necessarily killing everyone aboard. Next target, Chen ordered. One by one, the fleeing Zephyrian ships fell victim to the Blackstar's pursuit. The human ship was faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that could disable rather than destroy. Within an hour, 13 Zephyrian destroyers drifted powerless in space, their crews alive but helpless. The last ship to fall was the damaged cruiser, its captain showing remarkable skill as he tried to use the system's asteroid belt to break visual contact with the pursuing human ship. For a moment, Chen allowed herself to feel a grudging respect for the alien commander's tactical abilities. But respect didn't equal mercy. Target the cruiser's bridge section with precision plasma bursts, Chen ordered. I want their weapons and engines offline, but leave life support intact. The final engagement lasted only minutes. The Zephyrian cruiser, already damaged from the initial torpedo barrage, couldn't maneuver effectively enough to escape the Blackstar's weapons. Precisely targeted plasma bursts eliminated its weapons arrays and engine systems, leaving the ship drifting helplessly among the asteroids. All Zephyrian vessels disabled or destroyed, Captain, Webb reported. No ships escaped the system. Chen studied the tactical display, now showing a field of debris where the mighty Zephyrian fleet had once sailed. 47 ships reduced to 14 disabled vessels and expanding clouds of wreckage. The entire engagement had lasted less than 2 hours from first contact to final shot. Communications, open a channel to the surviving Zephyrian ships, Chen ordered. Channel open, Captain. Chen walked to the center of the bridge, positioning herself in front of the main view screen, where the aliens would be able to see her clearly. She wanted them to remember this moment, to remember the human face that had delivered their defeat. Zephyrian commanders, Chen began, her voice carrying absolute authority. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Blackstar. Your fleet has been eliminated. Your ships are disabled. Your empire's expansion into human space ends here. She paused, letting the words sink in. On the disabled alien ships, surviving crew members would be huddled around communication terminals, listening to the voice of their conqueror. You will repair your ships sufficiently to achieve hyperspace capability, Chen continued. You will return to Zephyrian space. You will inform your government that humanity is not a species to be conquered or enslaved. Any further incursions into human space will result in the complete annihilation of Zephyrian military forces. Another pause. Chen wanted to make sure they understood the gravity of their situation. Consider this a demonstration of human military capability. We have weapons you cannot counter, ships you cannot outrun, and warriors you cannot defeat. The next Zephyrian fleet that enters human space will not be disabled. It will be destroyed utterly, leaving no survivors to carry warnings. Chen gestured to Park, who cut the communication channel. Around the bridge, her crew maintained their professional composure, but she could sense their satisfaction. They had done what humanity did best. They had taken an enemy's strength and turned it into weakness, then eliminated the threat with ruthless efficiency. Captain, Singh said quietly, do you think they'll actually deliver our message? Chen returned to her command chair, settling back into the throne-like seat from which she commanded one of humanity's most powerful weapons. "Oh yes, Commander." "They'll deliver our message. The Zephyrian Empire needs to know what happened here. They need to understand that humanity is not another species to be conquered." She activated the ship-wide communication system, addressing her crew. "Crew of the Blackstar, you have just participated in one of the most decisive engagements in human military history. In less than 2 hours, you have eliminated a Zephyrian fleet that represented 3,000 years of military development. You have sent a message to the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate attacks on our civilians." Chen paused, thinking about Dr. Prower, Martinez and his research team, about all the human lives that had been lost to alien aggression over the years. But our work is not finished. Intelligence indicates there are 3 more Zephyrian fleets operating in nearby systems. We will hunt them down one by one until the threat to human space is eliminated completely. She closed the communication and turned to her helm officer. "Lieutenant Kim, set course for the Tau Ceti system. Intelligence reports indicate a Zephyrian strike force is operating there." "Course laid in, Captain," Kim replied. "Ready to jump to hyperspace on your order." Chen looked one last time at the tactical display showing the wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet. In a few hours, word of this engagement would spread across the galaxy. Every species would learn that humanity had entered galactic warfare not as conquerors or diplomats, but as apex predators who viewed war as a problem to be solved through the complete elimination of their enemies. "Engage," Chen ordered. The USS Blackstar disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a field of disabled ships and expanding debris clouds. The survivors would make their way back to Zephyrian space, carrying word of humanity's message to their empire. The galaxy was about to learn a new lesson about war. They were about to discover that humans didn't just fight to win, they fought to end conflicts so decisively that their enemies never dared to fight again. The hyperspace journey to Tau Ceti took 18 hours, during which Captain Chen used the time to study intelligence reports about their next target. The Zephyrian strike force operating in the Tau Ceti system was different from the fleet they had just eliminated. Smaller, faster, and equipped for deep penetration raids rather than occupation duties. Chen sat in her ready room, reviewing holographic displays that showed the tactical composition of the enemy force. 23 ships total, 1 command cruiser, 8 heavy destroyers, and 14 fast attack craft, designed for hit-and-run operations against civilian targets. According to intelligence reports, this strike force had already attacked 3 human colonies in the Outer Rim, each time striking civilian targets and withdrawing before local defense forces could respond. Their tactics were typical of Zephyrian doctrine: terrorize the civilian population to force government surrender. They had chosen the wrong species to terrorize. A chime indicated someone at her door. "Enter," Chen called. Commander Singh stepped into the ready room, carrying a data tablet and wearing an expression of controlled anger. "Captain, I've been reviewing the intelligence reports on the Tau Ceti strike force. They're the ones responsible for the attack on New Hokkaido." Chen's jaw tightened. New Hokkaido had been a gradual colony with a population of 40,000 civilians. Farmers, scientists, and their families trying to build a new life among the stars. The Zephyrian strike force had bombed the colony from orbit, killing 15,000 people and leaving the survivors without food, shelter, or medical supplies. "Confirmed casualties?" Chen asked, though she already knew the numbers by heart. 15,217 dead, Singh replied, consulting his tablet. "Another 8,000 wounded. The survivors were evacuated to Mars, but the psychological trauma." He didn't finish the sentence. Chen had seen the reports. Children who woke up screaming from nightmares about alien ships in the sky. Adults who couldn't function normally after watching their friends and neighbors die in orbital bombardments. Families torn apart by violence that had been visited on them simply because they were human. "Time to target?" Chen asked. Singh checked his chronometer. 6 hours, 37 minutes until we reached the Tau Ceti system. Chen rose from her desk and walked to the small porthole that looked out into hyperspace. The swirling colors of higher dimensions rushed past the ship, carrying them toward their next engagement with humanity's enemies. "Commander, I want you to prepare something special for this engagement," Chen said without turning from the porthole. "Contact Chief Rodriguez and tell her to arm the Omega torpedo." Singh's eyes widened. The Omega torpedo was humanity's most classified weapon, something so powerful that only a handful of people knew it existed. "Captain, are you certain?" The Omega torpedo is designed for use against fixed installations or planet-side targets. Using it against ships in space, Chen turned to face her first officer. The Zephyrians attacked New Hokkaido to send a message about what happens to human civilians who resist their expansion. I'm going to send them a message in return. Singh nodded slowly, understanding the implications. I'll contact engineering immediately. After Singh left, Chen remained alone in her ready room, staring at the intelligence reports about New Hokkaido. The Zephyrian Empire had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had assumed that humans would respond to the slaughter of civilians the way other species did, with outrage, diplomatic protests, and eventually negotiated settlements. They had no idea that humans had learned a different lesson from their violent history. When someone attacked your civilians, you didn't negotiate. You didn't protest. You found them and you eliminated them so completely that no one would ever consider making the same mistake again. 6 hours later, Chen stood on the bridge of the Blackstar as they prepared to drop out of hyperspace. Around her, the crew moved with the quiet efficiency of experienced professionals preparing for combat. This would be their second engagement in less than 24 hours, but Chen could see no fatigue in her people. If anything, they seemed more focused, more determined than before. Captain, Lieutenant Kim reported from the helm. We're approaching the drop point. Ready to exit hyperspace on your command. Sensors go active the moment we transition. Chen ordered. I want a full tactical picture of the system within 30 seconds of arrival. Aye, Captain, Webb acknowledged from his tactical station. All stations report ready, Singh announced. Chen settled into her command chair, feeling the familiar weight of command as the Blackstar prepared to engage the enemy. Take us out of hyperspace. The transition from hyperspace to normal space was always jarring, like stepping from a moving vehicle onto solid ground. The bridge lights dimmed momentarily as the ship's systems adjusted to operating in normal spacetime, then came back to full intensity as the Blackstar's sensors began their sweep of the Tau Ceti system. Contact! Webb announced immediately. I'm reading multiple Zephyrian signatures in the inner system. Stand by for detailed analysis. The main view screen filled with a tactical display showing the star system spread out before them. Tau Ceti was a stable yellow star similar to Earth's sun, orbited by 6 planets including one that had been marked for future human colonization. Detailed scan complete, Webb reported. I'm reading 23 Zephyrian vessels in formation around the second planet, 1 command cruiser, 8 destroyers, and 14 fast attack craft. They appear to be conducting orbital bombardment of the planetary surface. Chen's expression hardened. There were no human colonies in the Tau Ceti system, which meant the Zephyrians were practicing their bombardment techniques on an uninhabited world, preparing for future attacks on human civilian targets. Any sign they've detected us? Chen asked. Negative, Captain. We dropped out of hyperspace at maximum sensor range. They show no indication of awareness. Chen studied the tactical display, noting the positioning of the enemy ships. The Zephyrian strike force was arranged in a pattern optimized for planetary bombardment, with their ships spread out to provide maximum coverage of the planet's surface. It was an efficient formation for attacking defenseless targets. It was also a formation that left them vulnerable to a coordinated attack from space. Tactical assessment, Chen ordered. Webb ran his analysis quickly. The enemy formation is spread across approximately 50,000 kilometers of space. Their command cruiser is positioned at the center of the formation, coordinating the bombardment pattern. The destroyers are arranged in a defensive perimeter, with the attack craft providing close escort. Chen nodded. Recommendations for engagement? Standard doctrine would be to approach under stealth and eliminate the command cruiser first. Webb replied. Without coordination, their formation will break down and become easier to engage piecemeal. Chen considered this, then made her decision. Negative. We're not going to use standard doctrine. She turned to Singh. Commander, is the Omega torpedo ready? Singh consulted his tablet, his expression grave. Engineering reports the weapon is armed and ready for deployment. Chief Rodriguez requests confirmation that you understand the weapon's effects. Chen understood perfectly. The Omega torpedo was humanity's answer to the question of how to kill something really, really hard. Unlike the Nova torpedoes, which were designed to destroy individual targets, the Omega torpedo was designed to sterilize entire volumes of space. Helm, plot a course that will bring us within Omega torpedo range of the center of the enemy formation, Chen ordered. Tactical. I want a firing solution that will place the weapon at the exact geometric center of their ships. Captain, Singh said quietly, the Omega torpedo will eliminate the entire enemy force simultaneously. There will be no survivors to carry word back to their empire. Chen turned to look at her first officer. Commander, the Zephyrians who attacked New Hokkaido are down there practicing how to kill human civilians more efficiently. They're refining their techniques for orbital bombardment so they can murder families like the ones who died on New Hokkaido. She gestured toward the tactical display. Those ships contain the same crews who laughed while they bombed schools and hospitals. The same aliens who made sport of hunting down evacuation shuttles filled with children. Chen's voice carried absolute conviction. I don't want survivors to carry word back to their empire. I want the Zephyrian military command to wonder what happened to their strike force. I want them to send investigation teams that find nothing but empty space and background radiation. Singh nodded slowly, understanding his captain's reasoning. Fear was a weapon, and uncertainty was even more powerful than fear. If the Zephyrians didn't know what had happened to their forces, they would have to assume that any ship sent into human space might simply vanish without trace. Helm course plotted and ready, Kim reported. Time to firing position, 47 minutes. Tactical, firing solution computed and locked, Webb added. Omega torpedo ready for deployment. Chen activated the ship-wide communication system. Crew of the Blackstar, in 45 minutes we will engage the Zephyrian strike force responsible for the attack on New Hokkaido colony. These are the aliens who murdered 15,000 human civilians in an unprovoked attack on farmers and families. She paused, letting the significance of their mission sink in. Today we will demonstrate that attacking human civilians carries consequences that extend far beyond anything the enemy can imagine. When we are finished, this star system will be empty of all Zephyrian presence. The aliens who laughed while they bombed human children will learn that humanity's vengeance is absolute. Chen closed the communication and settled back in her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew continued their preparations with the focused intensity of professionals who understood exactly what they were about to do. The USS Blackstar moved through space toward the unsuspecting Zephyrian strike force, carrying with it a weapon that would demonstrate to the galaxy exactly why humans had earned their reputation as the most dangerous predators in known space. In 45 minutes, the Zephyrians practicing their bombardment techniques would discover that humans had perfected far more efficient methods of killing their enemies. They would learn that when humanity decided to eliminate a threat, they did so with a thoroughness that bordered on the mathematical. The Omega torpedo waited in its launch tube like a caged demon, ready to show the galaxy what happened when someone made the mistake of threatening human civilians. The weapon contained enough destructive force to sterilize an entire volume of space, turning ships and crews into their component atoms with perfect efficiency. Chen watched the tactical display as her ship closed the distance to the enemy formation. Soon, the Zephyrian strike force would simply cease to exist, leaving behind nothing but expanding clouds of subatomic particles and the silence of empty space. The galaxy would learn another lesson about warfare. They would discover that humans didn't just win battles, they erased their enemies from existence so completely that future generations would wonder if they had ever existed at all. The USS Blackstar approached its firing position with the inevitability of a falling star. Captain Chen watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian strike force continued its orbital bombardment practice, completely unaware that death was approaching from the edge of the star system. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Webb announced from Tactical, we're at optimal firing range for the Omega torpedo. All targeting parameters confirmed and locked. Chen studied the enemy formation one final time. 23 ships spread across 50,000 kilometers of space, each one crewed by aliens who had participated in the slaughter at New Hokkaido. In a few minutes, those ships would simply cease to exist, erased from the universe with the same casual efficiency they had used to murder human families. Commander Singh, Chen said, final confirmation from engineering on weapon status. Singh consulted his tablet, his expression reflecting the gravity of what they were about to do. Chief Rodriguez reports all systems green. The Omega torpedo is armed and ready. She reminds you that once fired, the weapon cannot be recalled or disarmed. Chen nodded. The Omega torpedo was humanity's most terrible weapon, a device that turned the fundamental forces of physics into instruments of annihilation. Unlike conventional antimatter weapons that simply released energy, the Omega torpedo created a localized disruption in space-time itself, causing matter to lose cohesion at the subatomic level. The weapon didn't just destroy its targets, it unraveled them from existence. Captain, Ensign Park called from communications. We're receiving transmissions from the Zephyrian formation. They appear to be discussing bombardment patterns and target selection. Put it through, Chen ordered. The bridge speakers filled with alien voices, rendered into English by the universal translator. The Zephyrians were speaking with the casual professionalism of experienced soldiers discussing routine matters of war. Bombardment Pattern 7 shows optimal efficiency for destroying agricultural infrastructure. one voice reported. Recommend implementation for future civilian targets. Confirmed, replied another. Update tactical database with improved targeting algorithms. Next colony bombardment should achieve 95% casualty rates. Chen listened to the emotionless discussion of how to more efficiently murder human civilians. These weren't soldiers fighting for territory or resources. They were technicians refining methods of genocide, treating the slaughter of innocents as an engineering problem to be solved. Cut transmission, Chen ordered, her voice carrying absolute finality. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of ship systems. Around her, the crew of the Blackstar prepared to deliver humanity's answer to the casual discussion of murdering human families. Tactical, Chen said. Fire the Omega torpedo. Webb's finger hovered over the firing control for a moment, then pressed down with deliberate precision. Deep in the Blackstar's hull, launch systems that had been designed by humanity's brightest minds activated. The Omega torpedo lifted its tube like a bullet fired from the barrel of God's own gun. The weapon was invisible to conventional senses, protected by stealth fields that made it appear as nothing more than a slight distortion in space-time. It traveled at near light speed, carrying with it the accumulated knowledge of humanity's most destructive scientific achievements. Torpedo away, Webb confirmed. Time to impact, 14 seconds. Chen watched the tactical display as the weapon crossed the void toward the unsuspecting Zephyrian formation. In her mind, she could see the alien crews continuing their casual discussions of genocide, completely unaware that they had seconds left to exist. Impact in 5 seconds, Webb announced. The Omega torpedo reached the geometric center of the Zephyrian formation and detonated. What happened next defied easy description. The weapon created a spherical zone of altered space-time, approximately 100 kilometers in diameter. Within that zone, the fundamental forces that held matter together simply stopped working. Atoms lost their ability to maintain coherence. Molecular bonds dissolved. The distinction between matter and energy became meaningless. 23 Zephyrian ships containing over 8,000 alien warriors simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, unmade. The atoms that had composed their hulls, their weapons, their crews, reverted to their component particles and dispersed into the quantum foam of empty space. In the span of a single second, a strike force that had terrorized human colonies for months was reduced to nothing more than a faint expansion of subatomic particles and background radiation. Confirm total elimination of all targets, Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they had just accomplished. Webb ran multiple sensor sweeps of the engagement zone. Confirmed, Captain. No Zephyrian vessels remaining. No debris, no energy signatures, no electromagnetic emissions. The area has been completely sterilized. Chen nodded, feeling a cold satisfaction that went beyond mere military victory. The aliens who had laughed while bombing human children had learned that humanity's capacity for vengeance exceeded their imagination. Communications, Chen ordered. Transmit a message to Earth Command. Text only, maximum encryption.
Ready to transmit, Captain, Park confirmed.
Chen composed her message carefully, knowing that history would judge these words. To Admiral Harrison, Earth Command. Zephyrian strike force at Tau Ceti eliminated with complete success. No survivors. No debris. Recommend immediate intelligence assessment of remaining Zephyrian forces in human space. Captain Chen, USS Blackstar, end transmission. Message transmitted, Captain. Park confirmed. Chen turned to Commander Singh. What's the status on the remaining Zephyrian fleets in our territory? Singh consulted his intelligence database. According to our last reports, there are 2 more Zephyrian formations operating in human space, a heavy battle group in the Wolf 359 system, and a fast cruiser squadron raiding shipping lanes near Proxima Centauri. Chen considered their options. The Blackstar carried enough conventional weapons to handle both remaining enemy forces, but she was beginning to see a larger strategic picture. The Zephyrian Empire needed to understand that their expansion had encountered something unprecedented in 3,000 years of conquest. Helm, plot a course for Wolf 359, Chen ordered. Maximum speed. Course plotted, Captain. Ready for hyperspace transition. Chen activated the shipwide communication system one final time. Crew of the Blackstar, we have successfully eliminated the second Zephyrian force operating in human space. 2 enemy formations remain. When we have eliminated them, the immediate threat to human colonies will be ended. She paused, thinking about the broader implications of their mission. But our actions today represent more than military victories. We are demonstrating to the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate attacks on our civilians. We are establishing the principle that species who threaten human families face consequences that extend beyond conventional warfare. Chen looked around the bridge at her crew, 200 of humanity's finest warriors who had just participated in the complete erasure of an enemy force from existence. When word of these engagements reaches the galactic community, every government will understand that humanity has entered galactic politics not as supplicants or junior partners, but as apex predators. They will learn that attacking human civilians is not a policy decision, it's a suicide pact. She closed the communication and settled back in her command chair. Engage hyperspace drive. The Blackstar disappeared from the Tau Ceti system, leaving behind empty space where a Zephyrian strike force had existed minutes before. There was no debris field to mark the passage of 8,000 alien warriors. No energy signatures to indicate that a battle had taken place. Nothing but the faint background radiation that permeated all of space. In the hours that followed, automated monitoring stations throughout the galaxy would detect the unique electromagnetic signature of an Omega torpedo detonation. Intelligence services across known space would note the location and timing, adding another data point to their growing understanding of humanity's military capabilities. The Zephyrian Empire would discover that their strike force had simply vanished. Search teams sent to investigate would find nothing, no wreckage, no distress signals, no trace that 23 ships had ever existed. The strike force would become a mystery that Zephyrian military analysts would study for decades, trying to understand how an entire formation could disappear without leaving any evidence of what had happened to them. Other species would take note of the silence where once there had been Zephyrian transmissions. They would update their threat assessments of humanity, adding new classifications to their military databases. Humanity would no longer be listed as an emerging spacefaring species or regional power. They would be classified as something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that didn't just win wars but erased their enemies from existence with such thoroughness that future generations would wonder if those enemies had ever existed at all. The USS Blackstar continued its hunt through hyperspace, carrying death itself toward the remaining Zephyrian forces that dared to operate in human space. Behind them, they left a wake of silence that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. 2 more enemy fleets awaited elimination. When the Blackstar finished its work, the immediate threat to human space would be ended. But more importantly, the galaxy would have learnt a new lesson about the nature of warfare. They would learn that when humanity decided to end a threat, they did so with a finality that transcended conventional military victory. They would discover that humans didn't just defeat their enemies, they erased them so completely that even the memory of resistance became meaningless. The galaxy was about to discover why humanity had earned its reputation as the Silent Death. Not because humans were quiet in their warfare, but because when humans finished with their enemies, the silence that followed was absolute and eternal. In the cold vacuum of space, where the Tau Ceti strike force had once sailed, only emptiness remained. A monument to humanity's message that attacking human families came with consequences beyond imagination. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that they had awakened something in the galaxy that they were wholly unprepared to face. The hunt continued, and the USS Blackstar carried with it the promise that justice, when delivered by humanity, was as inevitable as the heat death of the universe itself.